He'll hit me. He'll, like, drag me by the chain, you know, stuff like that.
It really hit me that something was really, really wrong, that she wasn't home.
You think you have a serial kidnapper or a serial killer, because how can you not think they're related?
Looking at that made me remember him whooping me with that.
Ariel Castro had written this note within the last couple of years, expressing remorse and saying that he's a sex addict.
He would take my hair and like put it in his mouth. I don't know why he did it, but it was gross.
When you get to the house, you immediately know that he's not going to let you out.
Yes.
Can you think of anything that we should push harder for than the abolition of the slave trade business among our teenagers in our state? Because I can't think of anything.
Prayers have finally been answered. The nightmare is over.
You got her back.
Yes, that's the most important thing right now.
Sometimes, the real monsters aren't in horror movies. They're living next door, smiling at you at the grocery store, offering you a ride home. And sometimes, the nightmare lasts not for hours, not even for days, but for years. This is the story of three young women, an ordinary house hiding an extraordinary evil, and the rescue that the world almost didn't believe was possible. This is the horror of Ariel Castro, and the decade of darkness he forced three innocent girls to endure. Welcome back to Bad People. If you think you're ready, let's step into one of the most petrifying true crime cases in American history. Viewer discretion, seriously advised. It all started with a single missing poster, a young smiling face, a name, Michelle Knight. It was August 23rd, 2002, when Michelle, just 21 years old, vanished in Cleveland, Ohio. She was last seen leaving her cousin's house after a fight with her mother, a fight about custody of Michelle's young son. The emotional turmoil was mounting, and Michelle's life was hanging on the edge. But when Michelle went missing, the world barely blinked. Authorities assumed she'd just run away. Another troubled girl slipping through the cracks. No Amber Alert. No televised search. No crowds with flashlights combing through the woods. Michelle Knight simply disappeared, and almost no one seemed to notice. But Ariel Castro, and to him, she was exactly what he wanted: isolated, vulnerable, alone.
And each time he aborted it, one was worse than the other. First, he'll starve me. He'll throw me downstairs. Use blunt objects to abort it. Pipes, bats, he will use anything to make it go away.
The second girl, Amanda Berry, a sweet, hard-working 16-year-old who had a job at Burger King, just trying to save up for a car. April 21st, 2003, the day before her 17th birthday. Amanda left work, excited about her plans for tomorrow. But she never made it home. This time, the city paid a little more attention. Not enough, but enough to raise questions. Amanda's mother, Luana Miller, refused to let Amanda's name fade into oblivion. She begged, she pleaded, she went on TV shows. She chased psychic leads across the country. She poured every ounce of her soul into the search, even when the authorities seemed to lose interest. Because Amanda was not just gone, she was stolen. Her mother's desperation painted a heartbreaking portrait of a girl taken before she could even fully blossom into adulthood. And still, the truth of where she was remained a sickening secret behind a locked door on Seymour Avenue. Then came the third, Gina DeJesus. April 2nd, 2004, only 14 years old at the time, walking home from school, just 4 blocks away, when a family friend offered her a ride. That friend, Ariel Castro, her best friend's father, someone she trusted. In broad daylight, Gina got into the car, and just like that, she vanished too. Another poster, another candlelight vigil, another heartbreak for another family who could never have imagined the horror that was taking place just down the street. Gina's disappearance was the tipping point. The community was finally starting to take notice, but they could never have known that the devil was hiding in plain sight. Inside 2207 Seymour Avenue, time stood still. The house was a prison. The windows were boarded up, the doors chained. The girls, now captives, were isolated, beaten, starved, and violated, over and over and over again. It wasn't just the physical violence that scarred them. It was the emotional and psychological torture. Ariel Castro's twisted control over every aspect of their lives was nothing short of monstrous, and for a decade, this nightmare would remain locked behind closed doors. Michelle Knight was Castro's first prisoner. He starved her until she weighed just 84 pounds. He chained her in the basement, arms above her head, like an animal. She was beaten until she could no longer cry. When she became pregnant, he beat her until she miscarried. Not once, not twice, 5 times.
Daylight, food, water, clothes, just being able to have the simple joys of life. Being able to have that back was such a tremendous joy to me. He impregnated me several times and beat me with a barbell to eliminate the pregnancy, starved me, and knocked me downstairs. Almost every day he did beat, rape, and do horrible, unseen things to me. I was only 80 pounds when I got out.
Each loss was not only a physical torment, but a cruel reminder of how utterly powerless Michelle was. Her captor treated her like she was nothing, just a tool to wield however he pleased. For years, Michelle was made to feel as though her life had no meaning. It's hard to even imagine the hopelessness she must have felt, being stripped of everything that made her human. The last shred of dignity was stolen from her with every beating, every rejection, every mockery of her attempts to escape. But through it all, Michelle never gave up. She never stopped dreaming of freedom, even if it seemed like a distant and impossible fantasy.
If I wasn't chained up, the door was definitely locked to the point where I couldn't get out. And if he did leave the door unlocked, there was always a gun waiting for me. Sometimes I couldn't take it.
Amanda Berry lived a parallel nightmare, but her captivity came with an added, horrifying twist. She became pregnant, and in 2006, she gave birth to Castro's daughter, Jocelyn, inside the house. Amanda had to deliver her own child in a kiddie pool, with Michelle Knight acting as midwife, under threat of being slain if the baby didn't survive.
But you knew that he didn't want a baby in the house?
Yeah, because, if the baby cries or, the neighbors hear a baby or someone comes to the house, and what do you do with a baby? How do you keep a baby quiet? I had started, getting sick, I couldn't eat anything, and I would just throw it up. So that was the sign. I really didn't even know I was going into labor. I just had labor pains all day, but I had no idea what it was. So he takes me upstairs into my bedroom and he brings out this baby pool. So he had gotten Michelle to come in and help me deliver the baby, and he sat in a rocking chair and read a book, how to give birth.
Amanda's worst fears became reality. She was forced to bring a child into the world, a child conceived in the darkest of circumstances. But despite the odds, baby Jocelyn survived. And for a while, she became a strange, twisted beacon of hope inside a world of horror. A tiny reminder that life, however fragile, could still exist, even in the most hellish conditions.
A couple minutes later, the van pulls up and he says, "Do you need a ride?" I had my Burger King outfit on, so he noticed that, and he was talking about how his son had used to work there. I wanted my family to kind of know what I went through and how horrible it was, and I also wanted everything to be accounted for. The more we cried and showed him our pain and our sorrow, he got energy from that, it helped him.
Gina DeJesus, the youngest, faced her own daily nightmare. Still a child herself, Gina was manipulated, molested, and stripped of everything, her innocence, her hope, even her name. Castro called her his wife, forcing her into submission. In reality, she was another caged bird, one that never even learned to fly before the cage slammed shut.
When was the first time that he took advantage of you?
May 7th.
What are you comfortable in sharing and telling us about that?
I'm not comfortable.
As the years dragged on, Gina began to lose track of time. She began to wonder if anyone would even remember her. She began to wonder if anyone would ever find her. It's heartbreaking to think about Gina, just a girl, someone who should have been playing with friends and dreaming of her future, instead being locked away in that house, losing her youth piece by piece. But somehow, even in the depths of her despair, she kept surviving. She held on to whatever scraps of hope she could find, and that hope would eventually lead to her freedom. An escape that shocked the world. For 10 long years, the world moved on. Neighbors thought Castro was odd, but no one imagined the truth. He played bass in local bands, hosted barbecues. He even offered to help search for Gina DeJesus, knowing she was locked in his house the entire time. He was playing the role of a concerned neighbor, a pillar of the community. No one had any idea. He seemed so harmless, so normal. But evil can't hide forever. And on May 6, 2013, everything changed. That morning, Castro made a crucial mistake. He left an inside door unlocked. Amanda Berry, now 27 years old, saw her chance. With Jocelyn at her side, Amanda ran to the front door, pounding and screaming, fighting harder than she ever had in her life. Her entire body was shaking, but her will to survive was stronger than anything Castro had ever done to her. She thought of her daughter. She thought of the life she would give Jocelyn. A life free from the man who had stolen 10 years of hers. And she took that one last chance for freedom, no matter what happened.
So I'm like pushing it. I'm thinking like, oh, it's gonna break easy. It's just a screen door.
She hit the door with all her might. And then, in a split second, it happened. The door broke open. Neighbor Charles Ramsey heard the screams. He kicked the door open. Amanda burst out, barefoot, terrified, clutching her daughter, and called 911. "Help me! I'm Amanda Berry. I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm free now."
We kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911.
You need police, fire, or ambulance?
I'm the police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped, and I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm here.
It was a moment of sheer panic and relief, a collision of emotions that can't be fully captured in words. But in that moment, a mother and daughter had broken free of the horrors that had held them captive for a decade. Within hours, police swarmed the house. They found Gina DeJesus and Michelle Knight alive, skeletal, traumatized, but alive. After a decade of silence, the House of Horrors was finally broken open. The world was stunned. The headlines were explosive. How could this happen in plain sight? How could 3 girls vanish into thin air and no one know? The disbelief was palpable. People asked how Ariel Castro, a man who lived in their midst, could have hidden this dark secret for so long. Ariel Castro was arrested and charged with 937 counts, including kidnapping, rape, and aggravated slaying. He accepted a plea deal, life in prison without parole, plus 1,000 years. But true to his cowardly nature, he took his own life in prison just 1 month into his sentence. Some called it justice. Others called it a cheat. Michelle Knight called it freedom. Despite the fact that he would never face the full consequences of his actions, Castro's passing wasn't the closure Michelle, Amanda, and Gina needed. They were forced to rebuild their lives, piece by broken piece, while Castro's legacy remained a dark stain on their past. Michelle, Amanda, and Gina's lives were forever changed, but so was the world around them. Their courage, Their strength in the face of unimaginable horror inspired millions. And in some ways, their story became a light in a world that had seemed too dark for too long.
He imprisoned the 3 girls here for more than 10 years. They were chained up for much of the time, raped over and over again, half-starved, sometimes beaten. 2207 Seymour Avenue has been razed to the ground now. One less physical reminder of the girls' decade in hell.
Today, Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Michelle Knight are more than survivors. They are warriors. They've rebuilt their lives, told their stories, fought to help other missing children. They have become voices for those who still can't speak. Their strength reminds us, even in the darkest cages, hope can survive. Even after 10 years, the human spirit can still find a way to break free. As we close the book on the chilling story of Ariel Castro and the unimaginable torment Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina DeJesus endured, it's impossible not to feel a deep, gut-wrenching sorrow for what was stolen from them. But if there's one thing that shines through the darkness of their decade-long captivity, it's the incredible strength of the human spirit. These women were not defined by the horror they survived. They were defined by the resilience that pulled them through it. In the face of suffering most of us can never fully comprehend, they fought for their lives, for their dignity, and for the future they once thought was lost forever. The world was forced to reckon with the fact that no matter how deep the darkness, there is always a glimmer of hope, no matter how small. The escape of Amanda, with her daughter in tow, was a symbolic breaking of chains, a reminder that no matter how long the night lasts, the dawn will eventually break. The truth is, while the past cannot be undone, the future can still be rewritten. Michelle, Amanda, and Gina have not only reclaimed their lives, but they've also used their voices to ensure that others won't fall through the cracks as they did. They have become advocates for change, for the missing, and for the forgotten. They've turned their personal tragedy into a collective mission, and in doing so, they've given us all a profound lesson. Resilience is born from the most unlikely places. Strength doesn't always come from muscles or power, but from the quiet, indomitable will to live. There's a lesson here that transcends the story of these 3 women. It's a reminder that we all have the ability to overcome. Life can be brutal, unfair, and seemingly unyielding, but every single one of us is capable of pushing through, of holding on just long enough to see the light break through the clouds. And maybe, just maybe, it's not just about surviving. It's about surviving with grace, surviving with purpose, and surviving to change the world. It's about remembering that the monsters we sometimes face aren't just the ones we see in dark alleys or in horror movies. Sometimes they hide in plain sight, but they can't win. Not as long as we fight, as long as we speak up, as long as we help those who have fallen. For Michelle, Amanda, and Gina, their fight wasn't just for themselves. It was for everyone who needed a voice, for every person who has ever felt lost or forgotten. They are living proof that even the darkest nightmares don't have to define us. They can drive us to build something even brighter on the other side. The horror of Ariel Castro's crimes may never fully fade, but the power of survival, of hope, of the unbreakable will to live, that's a story worth telling. That's a story that should be remembered. If you're still here, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe for more intense true crime stories here on Bad Bad People. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, sometimes the biggest horror stories are the ones unfolding right next door.